Sunday at brunch, my son said. She'll sign if it looks like wedding stuff. That's when I knew the papers on the signing table weren't about flowers or chairs. They were about me. Quit claim. Power of attorney. Small fonts dressed in champagne. My name is Ruth Ellison. 32 years behind a high school front desk taught me two things. People tell the truth when they think you're furniture, and the last page is where the trap lives. I still carry a blue Bic. I underline what other people skip, so I made a plan. A red envelope, an affidavit with my name on it, a recorded "don't say POA near her" slip-up I wasn't supposed to hear, and one beautiful sentence from the venue contract, Clause 14, B. If a life safety system hiccups, alcohol, and special activities, pause until the fire marshal says otherwise. Brunch can wait. So can signatures. In the next few minutes, you'll see how a mother with a pen and a contract moved an entire wedding from a glittering lodge to the only place vows belong. Daylight. No scenes, just receipts. No shouting, just the truth, set on a table where everyone could see it. If you've ever been told you're a burden, stay with me. This is how you wear that word like a crown, and how paper stops being a weapon when you read it out loud. The mountains around Silver Pine don't rise like postcards. They crouch, old and heavy, shoulders hunched with fur. I drove in the way I do most things, steady, early, with enough snacks to feed a baseball team. The weather app called it a winter event. Where I grew up, we called it what it was, a storm. The lodge reared up from the trees like the inside of a snow globe. Twinkle lights, beefy beams, a fireplace big enough to roast an ox. I parked where the valet pointed and sat a moment with both hands on the wheel, listening to the little Civic tick itself cool. My car smelled like coffee, peppermint, and the lemon oil I use on the dash. It smelled like home. Week-long wedding itinerary, the email had chirped. We're so excited to celebrate with you. It came from Lydia at Bridal Vision, the planner, who liked capital letters like she liked glassware. Abundant. Attached was a PDF with rehearsal schedules, vendor lists, and a last page labeled Day of Documents. I printed it. I circled things in red, old habits. At the front desk, a young woman with a name tag that read, Maya, trainee, smiled in a way that reached her eyes. Not the show teeth, swallow your soul smile I knew from district meetings. This one looked like it came from an actual person. First time at altitude, she asked, sliding me the pen. First time above 10,000 feet with this much hair, I said. If you see a bun roll down the stairs like a hedgehog, that's mine. She laughed, and I liked her for it. People who can laugh at clean things are usually decent in a storm. Welcome to Silver Pine, Miss Ellison. 3rd floor, Lake View. The wedding block has hot cocoa at 3, and a s'mores fire tonight if the wind cooperates. Do you ever get used to the smell of wood and cinnamon? Never, she said. When I go back to my apartment, it feels like the world turned down a dimmer. Her voice had a little Colorado and a little everywhere, like people who work for tips and need to be understood by everyone. I tucked the key card into my coat pocket and heard my son's voice spool through the lobby like a fishing line. Mom! Caleb is taller than his daddy was, but he walks the same, like he isn't sure the floor will hold. He wears tidy shoes that squeak on tile. He hugged me with one arm, the other still holding his phone. You made it! He smelled like cedar soap and stress. How was the pass? White, I said, and full of polite drivers, or maybe they were afraid. He grinned, quick and boyish, then let it drop like he remembered he had a performance to complete. You'll love it here, he said. Lydia spared no expense. Lydia, I repeated. The planner? He nodded toward a woman by the fireplace, arranging a pyramid of flutes with the precision of a math teacher. She knows how to get things done. I looked. Lydia did not look like a villain. She looked like the women who brought bundt cakes to staff potlucks and whispered that the algebra teacher's skirt felt a little short this year. Polite. Unexamined. Check-in go okay? Caleb asked. Smooth as silk. The trainee's a keeper, I said, tipping my head toward Maya. Great, he said, already half with me, half inside the messages vibrating his palm. Welcome dinner in the Great Hall, 6 o'clock, casual. Where is it? Through those doors, past the bar, right of the fireplace. He kissed my cheek like crossing an item off a list. Love you, he said. Then into the phone. Yeah, the band's here. No, the special license came through. Yes, Sunday brunch is on. I had already read the packet. I had already circled Sunday in red. Upstairs, I unpacked like I always do. Drawer by drawer, an asymmetrical stack of sweaters, the black dress with sleeves, a Ziploc of hotel shampoos I pretend are souvenirs even when they're mine to take. I put my medication above the coffee maker and set my book, paper, not screen, face down on the pillow. The room smelled like clean and pine and money. Then I sat at the little desk by the window and opened the wedding PDF again to the last page. Day of documents, seating chart, vendor gratuity envelopes, emergency contact list, consent and authorization sheets, vendor ops, and special authorizations, elder. That last line was in smaller font. I measured with the Bix cap. Half a point, maybe one. The kind of change your eye glides across if your day is loud. I breathed through my nose and let the teacher part of me drive. Words are just people you can't see. If you listen, they tell you who they are. Consent and authorization, vendor ops, could be ordinary. A venue can't move a DJ's cases without someone responsible signing for liability. But special authorizations, elder, does not belong in a wedding packet. It belongs in a nurse's station or a courthouse. My belly sank the way it had the day the district changed the substitute literacy system and told us it was an upgrade. You recognize the shape of a thing even when they change its outfit. A knock, polite manicure on laminate, brought a teenager to my door. Noah, the bride's little brother, wore a volunteer lanyard and the grin of a boy who had just skateboarded down a service hallway. "Delivery for the mother of the groom," he announced, holding a glossy folder. "I'm the mother," I said. "Of the groom, not the delivery." "Same difference," he said, delighted with himself. "Thank you, Noah. You're a prince." He rolled his eyes the way boys do when you call them something good, so they won't suspect you mean it. He started to leave, then turned back, awkward in the doorway. "They put me on tech stuff," he said, lifting his phone. "Group emails, QR code, table tents. If anything looks weird in there, it's probably my fault." "Good to know who to blame," I said. "I'll direct all complaints through the proper channels." He brightened like a Christmas village. "You talk like my AP Gov teacher." "I was a school secretary," I said. "Same job, less credit." He grinned again and left. I shut the door with my hip and took the folder to the desk. Inside, welcome cards, itineraries, vendor numbers, drink tickets, and a half-page printout with Sunday brunch, signing table centered at the top. Below, in light gray, elder consent, special authorization signature, required for vendor management and financial instruments. My scalp prickled. Financial instruments are not chafing dishes. They are not chair sashes. They are the bones of ownership. I photographed the page. I printed it to PDF from my phone because old dogs can learn when they have to. Then my email chimed with a sound I had set to sparrow because I like to pretend technology is a bird. It was a forward from Noah. Subject line, "Oops, sorry." Body meant for Lydia. "Can you ignore?" And then a file that took too long to download. When it opened, I saw Caleb's face, sideways, and heard his voice too close to the microphone. "Don't say POA in front of her. Say vendor authorization. She hates legalese. She'll sign anything if it feels like she's helping." A woman, not Lydia, maybe the officiant, murmured, "And the quit claim?" "Recorder says we can pre-file and finalize Monday," Caleb replied. "If she balks, we'll say it's for the gift fund account. She won't balk. She's Ruth. She signs field trip slips for strangers." A laugh, a clink. Someone whisper cheered, "To freedom." I didn't realize I'd stood until my knee bumped the desk. The cocoa cup trembled. I have heard ugly in my life. I have heard boys throw slurs in hallways and men call secretaries honey while they forgot their daughters' names. I have heard grief that had no words and asked to borrow mine. But there is a special silence that falls when your child says something that lets you know he has not seen you for a very long time. No tears. Not then. My body did what it always does when a crisis asks me to pick a shape. It became useful. I forwarded the audio to myself and titled it Sunday Brunch _notconsent.wav. Then I did the thing that has saved me more than prayer and casserole combined. I made a list. Bank, fraud alert narrative. County recorder, ask about pre-file. Venue contract, full version, not the glossy handout. Fire suppression, logs, inspection dates, winter protocols, notary, quiet meeting with GM. The hairdryer came next because my socks were damp from a slush puddle by the elevator, and I do not think well with cold feet. I warmed them on the desk chair and called my bank. National Mutual, this is Arlene. Hello, Arlene. My name's Ruth Ellison. I'd like to place an advisory on my account. Has there been fraud, Miss Ellison? There might be an attempt to use legal documents to access my funds. I'm not stopping my card. I'm placing a narrative about potential elder exploitation so an automated reversal doesn't sprint past common sense on Monday. Arlene breathed like she had been waiting all day for a call with Bones. I can put a narrative and a supervisor flag, she said. Any dispute triggers a human read before decisions. Bless you, I said and meant it. Next, the recorder's office. Not Janice directly. Janice sings alto with me at church, and I like to keep friends out of official business. But the main line, like anybody else. Press 4 for recording. Recording, a woman said, fluorescent hum making a halo around her voice. What does pre-file mean on a quitclaim? I asked. It means a draft was submitted, she answered. If a notarized signature arrives within a window, it records quickly. We don't guess intent. We check boxes. I'll be bringing a notarized affidavit tomorrow stating I'm not transferring so much as a toothpick, I said. I didn't hear that, she replied. Then, the clerk who does hear things is out sick Friday. Thank you for the weather, I said. She laughed, which is how old women say I love you when the line might be public. I hung up and reread the packet. The glossy contract was pretty. I wanted the one with ugly clauses and penalties. The one an insurance carrier reads with a frown. Downstairs, Maya was mid-apology to a man in a scarf who believed volume was a shortcut. When she finished, her eyes flicked up. I tipped my head toward the far end of the counter where a binder was fat and the computer screen faced away from the lobby. Everything okay? She asked when I reached her. I'd like to request a private meeting with your general manager, I said. Not today, not public, in an office, with a printer. Her face did a thing I liked more than the smile. She listened with her whole forehead. Is this about the wedding block? Yes. Are you making a complaint? I can file a guest issue. No complaint, I said, the opposite, a chance to avoid one. She nodded, checked a schedule that looked like chess, and said, GM Pierce can do 9 tomorrow. Conference A. I'll block it. Could you print the special events agreement, I asked, the one with the maintenance logs appendix? She didn't ask why. She lowered her voice a notch. Let me grab your last name again. Ellison. Like the author. No relation. I like your book choice, she said, surprising me. Invisible Man, the parts you underline. It underlines me back, I said. Same, she said, and for a moment I saw the person under the name tag, tired, brave, hoping. The welcome dinner was nice the way hard candy is nice. Shiny, a little sticky. Something for your mouth to do so feelings don't crawl out and embarrass you. I sat at the end of table 7 with the people nobody knew where to put. When the toasts began, Caleb talked about grit and starting fresh and building a life, and I thought, you built some of it with my hours, son. Be careful where you put your hands. I did not speak to him that night. I did something better. I watched. At 8:12, he checked his phone and went blank in the eyes, like reading something he didn't want his face to show. At 8:20, Lydia whispered to the officiant and pointed toward me. At 8:47, a maintenance tech propped a service door, and a gust of air made the candles gutter lower than the holders wanted. The tech glanced up at a sprinkler head and frowned. I slept like a person guarding a gate, light, ready. When morning pushed at the curtains, I laced my boots, shrugged on the coat Walt called my toaster oven, and walked to Conference A. GM Pierce had the look of a man who could sell you a timeshare or a truce. He stood to shake my hand and offered coffee like it was social. I took it like it was fuel. Maya says you had questions, he said. I have documents, I answered and laid out my folder. The signing table printout, the audio transcript, a draft affidavit. the page from the glossy contract, and a post-it with 14B in neat block letters. Pierce scanned in the way of men who've read enough to smell a problem through laminate. "What outcome are you hoping for?" he asked. "Compliance," I said, "and dignity. I can help with the first." "Good," I said, "because the second depends on how you do the first." He almost smiled. He read 14B aloud. "In the event of a life safety system malfunction, venue reserves right to suspend alcohol service, open flames, or any assembly exceeding posted occupancy until corrective action is verified by local authority." "Sprinklers," I said. He didn't flinch. He looked at the ceiling like he could see through floors. "Maintenance reported a head froze overnight," he admitted. "We're working on it." "You'll call the fire marshal," I said. "You'll document the suspension in writing, and you'll attach an addendum that states no event host or vendor may request signatures for any document titled authorization, consent, or financial while alcohol service is suspended. No exceptions." "That's creative." "It's liability," I said. "For both of us. The county will love you." "And the wedding?" "Still happens if the couple wants it," I said. "Just not the way people who love small fonts planned." He buzzed maintenance. He buzzed catering. He buzzed Maya and told her to page Deputy Fire Marshal Holt and to use the word expedite exactly once. Then he looked at me like he was trying to decide what kind of animal I was. "May I ask why you didn't just confront your son?" "I will," I said, "but not until the room is arranged so the truth can stand up without wobbling." "You know," he said, "I like you." "People do," I said, "right up until I point at the line." We signed things. We initialed margins. Maya brought a notary from accounting who wore a sweater with snowmen and the gaze of a woman who could find your birth certificate in a tornado. I signed my affidavit stating I would not sign anything on Sunday involving a power of attorney or property. The notary stamped it with a thunk that felt like a heartbeat. By 10, a light blinked on the conference phone. Maintenance. "Marshall's on site, wants logs." "Give them," Pierce said, and I wrote the time in my little book. 10:03. Holt arrives. Logs requested. At 10:12, my phone buzzed. "Caleb, you around? Need you to look at some vendor forms for Sunday." I typed, "Love to. Brunch is a terrible time for paperwork. Let's do noon, sober, in daylight with my reading glasses." 3 dots. Nothing. That blank again. I closed my notebook and looked out at the firs standing like officers at attention, snow feathering down to erase footsteps as fast as people could make them. That's the thing about storms. They don't change what you are. They show you. Maya appeared in the doorway. "Fire Marshal would like to speak to you," she said. "Ruth," I reminded her, and stood feeling every year and none of them, because the right paper at the right time is better than a sword. Deputy Holt had the posture of a man people argue with for a living and the calm of someone who does not mind. He listened while I explained the clause, the addendum, the brunch plan, and the audio. He didn't say scandal. He said documentation. "Here's how this can go," he said. "We verify the malfunction. We suspend alcohol and open flames. We post occupancy. We document. If someone uses the pause to pressure signatures, we note it. What you do next is up to you." "What I do next," I said, "depends on whether they choose apology or escalation." He nodded, as if apologies were rare gems he had occasionally seen in the field. That afternoon, I took a shuttle into town and found the UPS store tucked between a donut shop and a real estate office with pictures of cabins that looked like cookies. I had the affidavit notarized again for the recorder's comfort. I bought a bright red envelope and wrote on it in block letters, "Read before you sign." I printed a transcript of the audio. I printed a copy of the addendum with Pierce's signature and the maintenance log page that showed the last inspection in November, the freeze protocol, and the blank line for the day we were on. I also stopped at the community center, Eagle Ridge, cinder block on the outside, clean and kind on the inside. A woman named Beth ran it with the energy of a gym coach and the heart of a choir director. She showed me the multi-purpose room, the kitchen, the stage, with scuffed paint and a good piano. "We do quinceañeras and veterans breakfasts," she said. "We can do a wedding in our sleep." I left a deposit and a note. Hold for Ellison Halverson, Sunday afternoon contingency. Back at the lodge, rehearsal populated the grand room with silk and nerves. The officiant, a woman in tasteful black, practiced names while Lydia checked each chair for alignment. Tess, the bride, had the pretty face of someone not yet practiced at disguising feelings. When she saw me, she squeezed my hands in both of hers. "I'm so glad you're here," she said, and I believed her. Her mother's mouth tightened. "Mom," Tess said gently, "don't do the mouth." "What mouth?" Lydia asked, already smoothing it. The rehearsal dinner was roast chicken and fettuccine and 2 kinds of green beans, neither of which anyone ate. I sat next to a florist who told me about peonies that sulk and roses that cost more in snow. Caleb stopped at our table and showed Tess a video of their dog, a mutt with eyebrows and the manners of a gentleman. It was a relief to see him love something that didn't have a signature line. Later, as I reached for my coat, he stepped in front of me like a teenager with a hall pass he shouldn't have. "Mom," he said, "quick thing. Lydia needs your okay for a vendor authorization so they can charge the cigar cart." "The what?" "It's a thing," he said, already embarrassed. "A cigar roller at the after party. It's included if we approve the vendor." "Caleb," I said, "I buried your father without knowing we were missing a radiator payment, but I figured it out because people wrote honest numbers where I could read them. If there is a vendor who needs approval, they can bring me the paper tomorrow at noon, sober in daylight, and I will read every line out loud like a substitute teacher with a chalkboard." He laughed, not happily. "You're making this weird." "No," I said, "I am making it plain." I slept. Not deeply. Enough. Sunday morning opened like a clean page. Snow bright, air sharp. People in good coats carrying hurt feelings under them like hot stones. I put on my navy dress and the pearls Walt bought me on a payday that had room. I slid the affidavit into the red envelope, the audio transcript behind it, the addendum behind that. I tucked the envelope into my tote and went downstairs. Brunch was already loud. The mimosa tower glittered. Lydia had staged a signing table beside a display of place cards and a chalkboard that said, "Welcome Family." Beside the chalkboard were 2 crisp stacks of paper with the word authorization visible through the vellum. A silver pen lay diagonally across the top page like a dagger pretending to be a straw. Deputy Holt stood near the door, in uniform but not declaring it, talking low with GM Pierce. Maya was at the host stand, scanning the room like a lifeguard. At 10:30, Holt conferred with a maintenance man and a clipboard. Holt nodded. Pierce nodded. Holt approached the bar, spoke to the bartender, spoke to Lydia, spoke to the officiant. He did not raise his voice. He raised the law. The bartender put down a bottle mid-pour. The candles on the buffet were snuffed. A server rolled out a stand with a laminated card. "Alcohol service temporarily paused per safety protocol. Thank you for your patience. It takes a second for a room to learn new math." People blinked. Glasses stopped halfway to mouths. Lydia's smile calcified. "What is this?" she asked Pierce, volume wrapped in silk. "Sprinkler head issue," he said, still professional, "and a log entry that needs verifying. Temporary pause per contract until fire verifies corrective action." "This is a wedding," she said, "not a warehouse." "It's a building with a posted occupancy and a life safety system," he said. "Same rules for weddings and warehouses." Caleb found me then, like a broom looking for dust. "Mom," he said, too bright, "can I grab you for those vendor things quickly before—" "No," I said, "not quickly. Not before, not here. Lydia said it'll take 2 seconds. Lydia is wrong." He swallowed, throat working. "You're making this dramatic." "Caleb," I said softly, "you planned it that way." He looked over my shoulder as if someone would rescue him from the sentence. No one did. Holt was on the far side of the room, speaking to a server about the posted occupancy card. Pierce was near the band, who had stopped practicing. Maya had moved toward the signing table. Lydia stepped in front of me with a sheaf of paper and a pen. "Ruth," she said in a voice that pressed sugar hard into gravel, "we just need your okay as the elder relative to authorize vendor releases and—" "Stop," I said, and I felt the word land like a weight hitting a trampoline, a bounce, then a stillness. Do not say elder to me like it's something you can use as a door code. It's the category the venue uses, she said. And it's the word you put on something ugly, I replied, to dress it for brunch. Her smile snapped. If you're going to be difficult, we can do this privately. We can, I said, but we won't. Ruth, no. She blinked in the way people blink when they aren't used to being told that a woman with short hair and a laminate church directory picture can move a room. Caleb, I said, and my voice was steady like a hand on a steering wheel. Come with me. Tess, you too. Lydia, you can follow if you like being told no twice. I looked to Holt. Deputy, would you stand at the door of Conference A? Not to police us, to witness the absence of coercion. He nodded once. Happy to observe. We walked, not fast, through a lobby that changed temperature when we passed, because when someone older goes somewhere with a purpose, people remember their grandmothers and hope they're okay. In Conference A, I set my tote on the table, took out the red envelope and placed it in the center. This, I said, is what I signed today. Caleb stared at the envelope as if it might explode. Lydia sighed like a woman who has had her nails smudged. Tess looked at my face. What is it? Tess asked. The opposite of what I was handed, I said. An affidavit stating I will not sign any instrument that gives someone power over my finances or home. A transcript of an audio file in which my son instructs someone not to use the phrase power of attorney around me. A copy of the venue's addendum suspending signature solicitations during a safety pause. Tess's face collapsed and opened at once. She looked at Caleb. What audio? He went pale, then angry the way boys do when caught with a hand in a jar they were told was empty. Noah, he said, that idiot. No, I said, do not say idiot. Say grace that the child who will be your family told the truth by accident. Lydia's chin lifted. This is out of context. Everyone signs authorizations at weddings. It's standard. Seating charts, I said. Vendor tips, consent to appear in photos, not quit-claim deeds, not durable powers of attorney disguised as vendor operations. Tess pulled a page toward her. She read the title, she read the third paragraph, and her hand flew to her mouth. Mom, she whispered, you told me these were hotel forms. They are hotel forms, Lydia said without a blink. The hotel needs someone to be responsible. The hotel needs logs, I said. No one needs control of my life. Caleb took a breath that filled his chest like a threat. Can everyone stop pretending this is a crime? It's just... He groped for a word that wouldn't make him sound like a man who had built scaffolding under his mother's mattress. Practical. Practical, I repeated. Say the quiet part, son. Say that it's practical to put your name where mine sits because you like your calendar the way it looks when I don't call you to fix the porch light. That's not fair, he said. You've been forgetful. I put salt in coffee once, I said. I am 66, not a ghost. He looked like he wanted to argue with math. Lydia smoothed the paper into submission. Tess did not move. Here are your choices, I said. And the sentence steadied me like a banister. You can tear up those papers, apologize to me and to Tess, go back to brunch and get married, like people who know the difference between vows and signatures. Or you can leave them on the table, and we will all walk to the recorder's office tomorrow where I will file a report for attempted exploitation. And the deputy outside will have a note that he observed pressure during a safety suspension. That's absurd, Lydia said. What's absurd, I said, is thinking a woman who ran a school office for 3 decades cannot read the last page of a packet. Tess's voice was small. Caleb, did you pre-file something? He rubbed his jaw. It's a timing thing. What did you pre-file? He didn't say it. He didn't need to. I said it for him. A quit-claim deed. Tess looked like she had stepped on a piece of glass. She reached for a chair without looking and sat. Lydia moved as if to touch her daughter. Tess lifted a hand and Lydia stopped as if she had run into a pane of glass she hadn't known was there. I thought you loved her, Tess said to Caleb. I do, he said. And it sounded like the truth, and it made nothing better. No, Tess said, calm in the way people get when there is no more up to run to. I mean, I thought you loved your mother. Caleb's mouth opened, closed. I put the red envelope in front of him. Open it. He did. He read the affidavit. He read the transcript. His face, when he reached the line about me signing anything if it felt like I was helping, looked like the face he wore when he broke his wrist in 8th grade and lied about how he fell. The pain was real. The story he told about it was not. He folded the paper. Then he folded himself. He put his elbows on the table and pressed his hands to his eyes. "I am so tired," he said, voice low. "I am so tired of being the only adult." "There are more adults in this room than you counted," I said. "They were here before you arrived." He didn't look up. "What do you want from me, Mom? Blood?" "Plain English," I said, and the sound of paper tearing. Tess stood, took the stack of authorizations, and ripped them down the middle. It didn't make a satisfying noise. Vellum rips like fabric, but it was a good noise. She put the halves into the trash can with the odd dignity of a woman carrying a baby to a baptismal font. Lydia went rigid. "We needed those," she hissed. "No," Tess said. "You needed control. We need air." "Sweetheart," Lydia began. "Mom," Tess said, and her voice was full of all the years she had grown without her mother noticing. "If you speak, you apologize to Ruth first." Lydia made a sound like a hinge rusting. "I'm sorry, Ruth," she said, and her face fought her. "For what?" I asked. "For overstepping. And for using language to hide the shape of a thing," she said, surprising me. "Maybe not much, but some." And I waited. "For forgetting that you are a person," she said. And I believed that she didn't like the taste of those words, but I liked that she swallowed them anyway. Deputy Holt's knuckles touched the door. "Everything all right in here?" he asked. "Better than it was," I said. "We're almost done." He nodded and turned to go. "Deputy," I said, "one more thing. Given the suspension, we need a new place for a wedding." Holt looked at Pierce, who had materialized at his shoulder with a brow like a flag. "We'll issue a partial refund for any services impacted by the pause," Pierce said. "Vendor credits will transfer if you have an alternate venue." "I do," I said. "Eagle Ridge Community Center. 2:00 if the couple wants it." Tess blinked. "You already have a plan B?" "I learned to carry jumper cables," I said, "and cake plates, and contingency plans." Caleb finally looked up. He looked younger than he had any right to look and older than I wanted to see. "You did all this," he said. It wasn't a question. It wasn't admiration. It was a map, and he realized he was not on it. "I read what you sent me," I said, "and I answered it." Tess wiped the corners of her eyes with the base of her palms like a kid. "I want to get married today," she said. "I do not want to sign anything that has more to do with houses than vows. I want my dog at my wedding. Will the community center let me bring him?" "Yes," I said. "I asked." Caleb made a noise that could have been a laugh if laughter had bones. "Of course you did." "Go tell your people," I said. "Those who love you will go where you are. Those who don't can stay here and stare at a pause sign." We stood. Lydia fixed her mouth and then let it soften, like a woman who realizes that the muscles she'd been clenching could be put to better use. She reached for Tess's hand. Tess gave it to her. For all my annoyance with Lydia, and it sat in me like a hot stone, I respected that she took the lead her daughter gave her instead of snatching it back. Outside, the lobby had taken on that crackle of rumor that happens when rules interrupt leisure. Holt and Pierce handled the practical and the legal between them with the choreography of men who have done fires and weddings and wanted everyone alive at the end. Maya slid beside me. "Do we have a wedding?" she whispered. "I think we have a better one," I said. "Want me to call Beth at Eagle Ridge?" she asked, holding up a little paper where Beth's number was written in her neat print. "How did you—" "I saw you leave yesterday," she said, "and the way you came back." "Call Beth," I said. "Tell her to double the coffee and call anyone she knows who makes food on short notice." Maya grinned. "My aunt runs a taco truck," she said. "She owes me." "What for?" "Not laughing when she called cilantro an herbicide," she said. The next 2 hours moved the way good emergencies move, quick, with people who want to help and people who want to be seen helping, and, if you're lucky, a handful who do both. The band packed up and followed the electricity. The florist triaged centerpieces into mason jars that looked prettier than the crystal. Beth called the veterans group, and they set up chairs in formation like it was drill. The community center's piano could stay in tune if you didn't look at it funny. The dog wore a bow tie. I ironed a tablecloth with a warm aluminum pan because that trick works if you spread it on a towel. Guests came, most of them. Some stayed behind at the lodge to sulk or to stare at the mirror of their own plans. People reveal themselves when asked to move. It's worth writing down who carries a chair without being asked and who waits for applause to lift one. Caleb and Tess stood under a garland that would have been humble if it weren't exactly right. The officiant read from her notes. When she reached the part about family, she said, "The kind you come from and the kind you choose," and it did not feel like a slap at blood. It felt like an invitation to make more of it. Lydia cried the way proud people cry when no one is watching closely, tilting her head back and blinking hard. Noah filmed on his phone with that care teenage boys reserve for things that surprise them into quiet. The dog sat on Caleb's foot and sighed. I stood in the back where I like to stand, near an exit, near a trash can, near the place where people go when they are overwhelmed and need to breathe. It's where the useful stand. It's where the janitor stands. It's where God stands when he doesn't want attention. After, there was cake on paper plates. Beth's coffee tasted like forgiveness. Maya DJ'd with a playlist that understood people in their 30s and people in their 60s. Kids slid in their socks. A veteran named Earl danced with a girl named Penny, and it looked like a movie that never got made. Caleb found me by the raffle board. He held a plate with a corner of cake that he wasn't eating. "Mom," he said. "Caleb," I said. He looked at the cake, he looked at me. "I am sorry," he said. And the words had that tender fail in them of a boy saying something adult for the first time. He took a breath. "I'm sorry for the papers. I am sorry for the audio. I'm sorry for confusing convenience with care." I folded a napkin just to keep my hands from doing something silly like petting his hair. "What made you think you needed it?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "Everything is loud. Work, money, people's parents. Lydia talks about contingencies. It sounded responsible." "Did it sound kind?" I asked. He swallowed. "No." "Did it sound like the kind of man you wanted to be when you were 7 and you got in trouble for giving away your allowance to the kid who forgot lunch?" He almost smiled. "I forgot about that." "I didn't," I said. "I remember. You liked being a helper. You still do. You just tried to help yourself before you helped the person who made you. It happens. Don't let it happen again." He nodded. "I won't." He looked towards Tess. "She's mad." "She loves you," I said. "That's different. It lasts longer." "What can I do?" "Not practical," I said. "Real. Put the recorder's office on your calendar for a different reason. Go there and ask how to add me to your emergency contacts properly. Bring Tess. Bring me if you like. We'll stand at a counter with a bored clerk and do something boring that honors truth." He nodded. "And," I added, "you will call me when you are tired and say so out loud instead of building secret towers of paper and pretending you live under them." He laughed, small but true. "Deal," he said. We watched Tess take pictures with the dog and with Lydia and with a group of kids who wanted to be near the bride the way birds want to be near electricity. After a while, Lydia came over. She stood in front of me the way women stand in front of other women when they have done arithmetic about themselves and didn't like the answer. "I was wrong," she said. "About what?" I asked. "Thinking control was love," she said. "Thinking tidy is holy. Using the word elder like it means soft and not like it means spine. Those are good sentences," I said. "Keep them." She nodded. "You saved the wedding." "No," I said. "They saved it. I gave it a place to stand." Maya found us and handed me a paper cup of water like a nurse who has learned how to find the person in a room who forgot to drink. "My aunt says the taco truck is on the way," she said. "She added cinnamon to the churros because she likes you." "I like her too," I said, not having met her, and trusting my instincts about women who run food out of trucks in snow. "Are you going to sue them?" Maya asked. Not to be nosy, but because she is 20 and wants the world to make sense. "No," I said. I'm going to file pieces of paper that say we told the truth. Then I'm going to go home and watch a show where people build cabins out of logs and talk about insulation. And I am going to bake a pie, and I am going to answer my phone when my son calls, and he is not allowed to use the word practical like it is soap. Maya smiled so wide it made the tired in her eyes look like a choice she was allowed to make. If I ever get married, she said, will you read my papers? I'll read your papers, I said. I'll bring my pen and my patience, and jumper cables. Near dusk, the snow stopped pretending and fell in big pieces like a child cutting paper. The community center's parking lot filled with breath turning into clouds. Caleb and Tess left in a borrowed truck with the dog on a blanket between them. Lydia hugged me with the closeness of a woman trying not to apologize twice. Noah told me he fixed the QR code so the guests could see pictures in a shared album. And I told him he looked like a person who would one day find a way to be useful that made sense to him and didn't raise his mother's blood pressure. He looked pleased by a compliment that took the long way home. I drove back to the lodge to pack. The lobby was quieter. Someone had fixed the sprinkler head, and the laminated card about the pause leaned against the bar like a sign that had done its job. Pierce nodded at me as if we had built a bridge together. Holt was gone to a place where a heater had misbehaved. Maya handed me a printed receipt for a refund and a note from the notary with a little doodle of a snowman saying, "You did the right thing." Upstairs, I folded sweaters into my bag and wrapped the pearls in a sock. I sat on the edge of the bed for a minute and listened to the heater click. I thought about the moment under the skis when my son and a woman had laughed about being free of a burden by Monday. I thought about how easy it is to forget that a person is not a task. I thought about Walt, who taught me to read the fine print on a roof shingle because it mattered when it rained. My phone buzzed. A picture of Tess and Caleb and the dog came through with the caption, "We did it," and a little heart. Then another from Caleb alone. "Thank you for giving the truth a table, then. I'll call you Tuesday. To talk, not to fix." I texted back, "I'll be at my kitchen table at 7. I'll put the coffee on." I zipped my suitcase and slid it off the bed. I turned out the lamp and left the room as tidy as I found it, because that's a kindness to the person who cleans after you. In the elevator mirror, I looked like myself. Neat hair, firm mouth, eyes that have seen enough to know not to look away. Downstairs, Maya called, "Ruth," and came around the counter. She hugged me with the quick, shy efficiency of a person who has learned to make affection count. "You saved my job today," she said. "No," I said, "you did your job. I gave you a piece of paper to hold while you did it." She laughed. "Same difference." "Different," I said, "but in a way that matters less than it feels." Outside, the air bit my cheeks. The car started on the first try because I ask little of machines and keep their promises oiled. I pulled onto the road and drove through dusk while the snow turned blue, then silver, then gone. Home was 3 hours and a couple of podcasts away. My bungalow would smell like lemon oil and last night's tea. The porch light would be out again because the switch is moody in cold. I would stand on the steps and look out at a neighborhood of little houses with big hearts. And I would think about vows and papers and the line between them. People send you things to sign because it's faster than learning you. Learn me, I wanted to tell my son, and he had started to. Learn me, I wanted to tell the world, and then I remembered the part where I have to introduce myself. My name is Ruth Ellison. I read what you hand me. I keep pens in my purse and jumper cables in my trunk. I have been told I am a burden, and I have been told I am a blessing. I am usually whichever one the person talking needs that day. But I am not paperwork. I am not a shortcut to quiet. If you want peace, you can have it the way the rest of us do, by telling the truth and washing the dishes. The highway unwound. The sky did that thing it does when the last light lifts and lets you see how big everything is. I turned on the radio and sang along to a song I didn't know, because sometimes that's what you have to do. Lend your voice to something that's going to happen anyway and make it better by being there. When I got home, I put on a kettle and preheated the oven. I took a pie crust from the freezer and rolled it as if I believed pastry can change the world, which is sometimes true and sometimes not. I peeled apples and thought about Sunday. I thought about the girl who danced in socks and the veteran who kept time by memory and the planner who put her hand on her daughter's shoulder and said, "I'm sorry," in a voice that learned a new slope that day. The oven beeped. I filled the crust with apples and sugar and a little lemon and a lot of cinnamon and slid it in. I set my old kitchen timer and sat at the table with a legal pad because that is what I do when I want to be sure I know myself. I made a list. Recorder's office. File affidavit for the principal of it. Bank. Leave the narrative. Thank Arlene. Community center. Write a thank you note to Beth and a check for the piano fund. Maya. Post a review that says her name out loud and means it. Caleb. Coffee Tuesday. Be kind. Be firm. Bring jumper cables. The timer rang. The pie smelled like a story that ends well because somebody decided to keep turning pages. I turned off the oven and cracked the door so the heat could leave slow, and I watched the steam rise like a coda. If you ever find yourself in a lobby where people are laughing about what they're going to do to you by Monday, do not make a scene. Make a plan, read the last page, sign your own paper, write your own ending. And if someone tries to call you elder like it's a code to a locked door, tell them it's a crown and wear it where they can see it. The house was quiet. The world was not. I set 2 mugs on the counter for Tuesday and went to bed with the clean tired of a person who had done the next right thing. When I closed my eyes, I saw a red envelope on a table and the look on my son's face when a sentence he didn't want to say out loud turned to ash and blew away. I saw a girl in a white dress dancing with a dog in a bow tie under gym lights. I saw a young woman in a name tag with her shoulders lowered because, for once, the grown-ups had been the kind they promised to be, and I slept. Not like a burden, like a person who'd been read and believed.